There we go. We have Angel. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you. We are actually live now across the internet, so we'll do the introductions in a minute. We normally have attendees start coming in. Hopefully we'll have at least a few. Otherwise, we'll just have a friendly chat.
Always like friendly chats, much better than aggressive ones.
I don't know. I've spoken to a lot of developers.
Well, when you say developers, you're talking software developers, not building developers.
Yeah, mostly software developers. There's some building developers I need to talk to about automation systems and IoT and ICS and why your access control system really is a bad idea to do it that way.
Yeah.
I generally don't get to talk to them.
Well, I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can get you involved in. I've got a little project running at the moment, and as usual, you get called in when the architect hits a problem, and that problem is normally the police give them a great long list of demands, and it's like, how do we do this? And you go, you take a sharp intake of breath, and okay, let's break this down into a few little steps. Yeah. But that's always interesting when they. Well, I've got a couple of projects that have dropped into my realm because people have hit a problem. You know, the architects, yeah, not a problem. I can do this. I can design this. I can build this. And then somebody puts the physical security stuff there, and then you start saying, but what about all the technical stuff that you got hanging off this physical asset?
Yeah,
all good fun.
Right. We should probably officially start, and then we can carry on with general conversation. So welcome to the Security Coffeehouse. As you can see, we have a luxury coffeehouse building. I hope you all have a drink on hand. It does not need to be alcoholic, but it does just help to relax the atmosphere. So if you want to grab a glass of water, cola, beer, whiskey, then feel free. And with that, I'm obviously James. I sort of run this. I will try to stay out of conversation as much as I can to let you speak, but I may get passionate about things and jump in. And I will be asking questions and so on, passing anything from the audience onto you. If we could just do some introductions first. So TR, I know who you are. Everyone else doesn't.
I'm TR. I worked with James back in 2010. I'm generally a DevOps engineer and manager of operations manager for an IT department. I work across Europe, UK, and usually Asia, but it's mostly Europe and UK. I get involved in security in various aspects, from architecture and designs to actual implementation. That's a little bit about me.
Okay, and Angel, if you go next, I'm just going in the order of screens here. So it's randomly chosen by Zoom.
Okay. Hi, I'm Angel. I'm currently pursuing my master's in Network and Information Security at Kingston University, London. I have completed my bachelor's in Computer Science and Engineering from India. I'm basically from India. And I have worked in Tata Consultancy Services as Assistant Systems Engineer. And currently I'm looking for an internship or a full-time job opportunity in the field of cybersecurity. I'm waiting to kickstart my career in cybersecurity. That's it.
Okay. And finally, Chris, again, I know who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm I'm the old grizzled one by the look of the panel. So okay, Chris Aldous. I run my own company called Design Security Limited, and you can see the banner behind me, hopefully. And that stadium I worked on back in 2004, right up till we handed it over ready for the Olympics. I mainly get involved in the physical security and built environment security. But I'm very aware that most of our technical systems that hang off that building rely on an IT infrastructure. And one of the things that always worries me in these big built environment projects is who's securing that infrastructure. because invariably nobody is, or nobody's thought about it.
Okay. And the starting topic is certification, qualification, testing. Obviously, both Angel and TR, you've got very recent, in arguably still continuing experience of training and education in security, specifically cybersecurity, but let's say security. If we start with you, TR, just a bit about your experience, what you think of it, how you found it, what's good, what's bad, what could be improved.
I didn't actually mention I'm actually doing my master's in cybersecurity as well, but effectively, I think what's happened for me is I think it's the whole thing is very generalized in cybersecurity. So we talk about the various aspects from operations, policy to penetration testing to actual how to go about securing things and understanding protocols and so on. So it becomes quite a large scope. I think as the industry evolves, that I think that needs broken down into more specialist areas, because especially at, in something like a master's, you want to go down a specific not pipeline, but you want to go down a specific road and a path to a specific destination, because that's what you want to specialize in. I think that's one of the main things from me that I'd like to see the industry start progressing. I'm aware that's happened in other areas of the industry though, so that's some of my take on that. Outside of the masters, I really think there is such a wide, varied take on cybersecurity and the levels it's taught at, that knowing where to start for a lot of people is just, they get lost immediately. They think maybe Security Plus or maybe the Microsoft introduction, but there's just so many different ways you can be introduced to it. I know that a lot of guys are just looking at, I'm not really sure where to start, and they haven't ever seen people in the security industry that are really willing to show them how to get started, because those people are already too far ahead of them and it started on a path, usually from systems operation development, etc., which means they don't necessarily know about these new paths available that are open to new starts.
Okay, and Angel, I'm coming to Chris last for a reason, it's fine. Your own experiences, because I know you've recently, are you coming to the end of your course or you've recently finished the course?
Actually, I'm coming to my end of my course by this September 2020. So like I'm expecting to start an industrial placement or an internship from this September 2020, like a minimum of 1 year. When speaking about my experience, like as Tia told, it's like completely generalized. The college, like the university education is completely generalized. There are so many topics coming in, like network security, information security, cryptography, data communication. So we are just having general information about all those topics. But I know that's not enough for the professional career. When we are moving into an organizational level, we need more of hands-on experience. So I'm not having much hands-on experience, or like I don't know. I know how these vulnerability assessment everything goes on, but I don't have the real-time experience of how they are actually done. I have done that, like we will do some assumptions and we will be just doing it for the completion of assignments and all, but I have no professional experience. Working with an organization will give more professional experience. Also, I believe that certifications like Security Plus, etc., are more important to enhance my skills. I'm not quite satisfied with my university education. I require more and more to be learned.
Okay, and Chris, you're sort of in my age bracket. Let's go with that. And obviously, you've had some experience in security outside of cyber, but security.
Yeah.
Given the two accounts you've just heard about cybersecurity training, education, this is we're talking masters, we're talking degree level, so the highest level of cybersecurity training.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? How would you, from your position of experience, change it, improve it? What would you suggest for people in that position?
Okay, yeah, I mean it's interesting because in many respects, like the physical market space is only really waking itself up. A lot of people would go and do a master's, and a good friend of mine did a master's in security, and his big gripe was that the information he was given to report on and write his thesis on was so out of date with where the marketplace was now and is going to be, and therefore it's a lot of the information is irrelevant. And you've got to, in my mind, you've got to ask yourself, well, what are you trying to show with all degrees? And as you go up the chain, it's all about showing that you have a level of competency at a higher threshold. So from a physical perspective, I know lots of really, really good operators that would struggle academically to put down on paper and articulate what they know they just normally do. It's interesting that you say about your, from the IT perspective, there doesn't appear to be a focus, that pipe, like you mentioned, pipeline, that focus on specific areas, and maybe that focus needs to be brought out earlier in the education program, so that you can. I mean, I don't know what motivates you to go down a specific route. Is it, oh yeah, well they're going to pay, this is what they're paying now for that type of qualification. This is what they're going to pay in 10 years time for that qualification. That's the pipeline I want to go down. Is that your driver, or is it, I want to learn about X, Y, and Z and give me a wider viewpoint? So, don't forget, with the university teams, they're trying to build courses on information that's probably 2 or 3 years out of date. I'm currently helping a particular UK university develop a master's in physical security, and they're referencing books that I touched and learnt from in 2007. So they're, it's like, but this is so out of date. So that's my sort of little spin on the market space as it is at the moment, and particularly the education elements.
So specifically with the universities, I think it does vary. So I know with my university, they're trying definitely to go with the more modern practices and the latest technology. However, with often the lack of skills in certain areas, they're forced into using older technologies, such for penetration tests, for instance. Like myself, I'm not penetration tested. I would stand no chance against a very modern system which had just had all the known bugs fixed, because that would mean me literally going to find these bugs, and I'm not the world's greatest tester, never mind penetration tester.
I'm just going to jump in there and say, from the point of view of someone who deals with pen testers a lot and deals with systems a lot, if you ever find a system that has had all known bugs fixed, please just preserve it in crystal, because I have never come across one in about more than a decade. Yeah. Let's go with more than a decade.
I would say on that, it's not so much about knowing, it's about learning, shall we say, what are the questions you need to be asking in order to start uncovering possible vulnerabilities in a system, rather than knowing them verbatim. Because I work on all sorts of different built environment projects, from schools to museums to multimillionaires' residences. And the threat environment is constantly changing, but the same sorts of questions will always need to be asked. How do you want to see this problem? How do you want to recognize this problem? How do you want to deal with this problem? Okay, so it translates in no matter what environment you're working in. How do you recognize that you've got an issue, that somebody's probing on a computer sense? probing your network. How do you recognize that? And now, how do you decide what you want to do with it? Do you want to try and deny it there and then, or let them keep coming and give them something back? So yes, information's always behind the curve. Sometimes there are new technologies out there, but the universities won't necessarily have the skill sets there to talk on them. But it's about understanding the principles of how you would exploit that technology.
Okay, so for both of you, Angel and TR, how much of the courses that you're doing do you feel have been about teaching you information, teaching you a particular technology, a particular thing, and how much has been more about the methods that Chris was just talking about, where it's the underlying principles, the underlying approaches that you take to a problem?
So for myself, it has been more about the underlying approaches and the methodologies. And I'll be really clear on that. It has been about methodologies, how to approach and think about the issues and the problems and how to discover them and how to obviously tackle them and prevent them happening again. So that's what I would say. And now going back to what Chris has said, necessarily it doesn't really matter how new a system is, as long as it's still a relevant technology. The underlying technology is relevant, and I think that's going to remain key regardless. Angel?
Yeah, the same. Like when we are working on something as a part of a university student, like we will be only just seeing, like learning the methodologies. Nothing we are like actually when a situation like that comes, we have never experienced that. I have never seen an actual risk or actual vulnerability happening in a organization. So I work, like currently I'm studying on the basis of some assumptions, like if such an incident occurs, if such a vulnerability comes, these are the steps we are supposed to take, or we have so many methodologies, or we have so many steps that is to be done to understand the risks and to mitigate the risks, or in order to prevent that happening again. But I don't have the real-time experience working with an organization. So I believe that if the university educations are providing some opportunity to work with an organization to deal with the real-time problems or the real-time risks, so that we will be getting more hands-on experience. So that's what I'm going to I'm expecting from this internship, which is going to happen from this 2020 September. So that I'll get an opportunity to work with an organization to face the real-time problems, and I will understand how to deal with them, because I don't believe that like understand is having so many knowledge or like methods in the mind, and if I'm not having a real-time experience, we will be learning through the experiences. Like whenever we are facing, like no say two risks will be same, like each and every time we will be having different kind of risks or different kind of vulnerabilities coming in. So we have to gain the experience, or we have to understand that and learn how to mitigate that from the real-time experience, not from the methodologies or from the knowledge. I believe like that. So once we are getting into that situation, we will be understanding how to take the dynamic steps and mitigate them.
Okay, so I'm going to take a question that comes out of yours there, which is how to certify experience, and say we'll get to that in a bit, because I'd love to get some discussion about vendor certificates, specific technology certificates, the short courses where you go for a week and you get a certificate at the end. I just want to say I'm not asking anyone to just rubbish them completely. They definitely have their limitations, they definitely have their place, they definitely have their benefits. So please don't feel that to make me happy you have to say that they're completely valueless. I want honest opinions from everyone on them. But on that sort of certificate, where it is the training, you get the certificate at the end, it's obviously very different from something like a degree course, from a level 7, level 8 course. It's more level 2, 3, where you were being taught information. how much value do those have? And do you feel, for Angel and TR, do you feel you need to have some certificates, not MSc, but certificates in order to enter the workplace? And Chris, from your position, how much value do you think they have? Do you think they are an important filter, and whether or not they should be?
Okay, who's going to jump in first? Okay, nobody. Right, from my perspective, so many years ago, when I finished doing the military and working in the security environment for the military, it was, how do I now put some credibility around all that knowledge I've learned over the last 13 or plus years and turn it into a civilian environment? And that's why I then pursued, I looked in the market space, and at that time, when we were talking the late 90s, there was nothing much around in, to validate all that experience. So I ended up doing the ASIS, which is an American organization, ASIS Certified Protection Professional, and then went on to do the PSP, the Physical Security Professional, which are great courses for teaching you a methodology and filling you with knowledge, and it helps validate a level of competency. I would say they were the start points, because in the commercial world, I've had to learn a lot more to take me forward. And then I ended up putting myself through an open university degree in social policy and criminology. People say, why criminology? I say, I want to know why I've never been caught. Okay, so for me, they're a reference point. Any certification, the fact that somebody's bothered their backside to go and learn a program, a set of works, and have achieved the necessary mark, at least shows me I've got somebody that's willing to get off their backside and do something, rather than, and I've had it in the past where I've interviewed people and they said, yeah, I've been doing this job 16 years. I said, yeah, but you've done no training in that 16 years. You know, what makes you now think you can be the manager of this? Yeah, well, I know the job inside out, but that's not what I want. I don't want somebody that knows this job inside out. I want somebody that knows my job inside out, so they can take on my role and I can move on. Okay, so certifications have a place. They're a good stepping stone, but I would always look for what is that pipeline that person needs to, or would want to, move down and move along.
I would have to agree with Chris. The certification has a number of benefits. I've always used certification, the short courses in my own profession, to basically examine areas I know I don't know anything about, things that I know I don't know anything about and want to learn more about. So when I was at Capita, they were a Prince 2 organization. I went and got Prince 2 certified because I wanted to know more about it, and I wanted not to become a project manager, but to be able to work efficiently inside that organization. I have a number of management certificates, and because of that reason, because I know I need to understand these concepts so that I can build on them. Because it's one thing to read a book, but reading a book doesn't say you actually know what you've read. When you see those certifications, you understand, actually, I did read that, I did understand it correctly, and I can now, to some extent, apply it and build on top of it. And that's also a really good thing, key things, being able to build on top of that, go further. I actually worked for, and I will quote this because the hiring manager at Compare the Market actually said to me, one of the reasons they were interested in me, it was because they clearly saw that all the certificate application I've done was off my own back. It wasn't because the company has sent me for it. They said, you did this all off you've paid for this, you've taken interest to go and get better. And I said, that's the type of people we want on our team. So yes, going and paying for that certification will open doors for you, even if it is not to the level that's required to do the job. It just shows that initiative and willing to learn and progress, which is key for any hiring manager to see, really. Beyond that, credibility of the courses, I would say most of the courses are credible, but you have to understand the level they're aimed at. There are courses that are aimed at penetration testing to, I think, 3 or 4 different levels. There are introductory courses and so on. So if you're looking for credibility, I wouldn't say look for the well recognized ones. Yes, because you want to be able to show that you've done something that's well recognized. But it's the credibility is with yourself to what that's going to do for you. So look at the course content. My first thing I want to do when I look at any course, I want to see what content is going to be delivered. What is the marking criteria? What will I learn? What do I need to learn to pass this exam? Because I want to be able to validate that at the end of it, I've learned what I wanted to learn and I understood it correctly. And that's key, because at the end of the day, it's not about having a bit of paper. It's about what you can do now and what you can do in 6 months' time. That's what that's really about. So regarding to you need it to enter the industry, no. I know lots of people that, sorry about that. I know lots of people that have entered the industry without them, and they're very good. I won't deny that. But I wouldn't detract from anyone that had gone through that experience and gone down that route. They're both good ways to get into it. But yes, it's a case of choose how you do it. Really, that makes sense to your progression.
I also completely agree with that. Like, certifications can make a big difference, because currently I don't have any certifications that are relevant to the cybersecurity field or security field. But like, I believe that if I am preparing for some certification, as you are told, it's not like just learning, but it will be validating your knowledge. Like, it will give you more confidence, I believe. Like, once you are a certified security engineer, or like when you are taking some certification, you can assure that, or like it by itself, it assures that whenever a recruiter is looking to your profile, or whenever somebody else is seeing you, you can assure that it's not like not just like reading a book. You actually know what you have studied, or you have you're just working hard and like validating everything. Like, you are just presenting your knowledge and getting approved for that. So I believe that certifications gives yourself more confidence, as well as the recruiters or the people who are seeing you giving having more confidence in your skills. I believe that certifications can give so much difference in your profile.
Okay, so we have had a question in from, I'm very sorry if I butcher the pronunciation here, but from Lishin, with 4 years of experience in networking, system admin, and is now an information security student, planning to get certified with CEH. So what type of job role is better to get a kickstart to an InfoSec career? And I'm going to weigh in on this one because I have an opinion, but I think there is the same argument about what type of job role is better to get a kickstart to a security career. I think there's certain roles where if you're lucky enough to get through the filter, meet the right person, and can start off in that role, they will give you a kickstart to your career and massive boost at the beginning. I don't think they're necessarily the right roles to go down if you want a long career in security. So I started very much service desk, very much frontline development and different areas there, because when I started, cybersecurity didn't exist. Info security was still new. I'm that old, all the fields that new, take your pick. And so I got a grounding across the disciplines, which means that now I'm in a position where I can go and talk to the people in those areas and understand what their challenges are, understand what they're trying to say when they say, actually, this security requirement is really painful. It's causing us a lot of friction. So my comment on it is that I think there are certain job roles that will get you a kickstart in your career. But if you want a long, stable, productive career that's on a trajectory where you can really make a difference, you might want to look at basic roles across a range of areas where you can get a grounding instead and then apply that later on. And I hope that someone's going to disagree with me.
Unfortunately, I'm going to agree, and the reason, and unfortunately, you know why I'm going to agree, given my background.
You're not the best example for this, but crack on.
So, just on that, information security dissects a number of, in IT anyway, intersects with a number of different disciplines: and networking, programming, and also HR function. Now, if you're looking for a long-term career in information security, you're going to need to understand quite a deep level, at least a couple of those fields. Myself, I come from a networking and software development side. So, and because of that, I can talk to anybody in that area. However, when I come to the HR side, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not the best one to sort of coax people down the right path, because yes, I understand how the IT department works. I can write policies for IT departments. I can't write it for the whole company because my mindset is so aligned with how the IT mindset works. So when I write those policies, that's what it's aimed at. But it does mean that I can work with lots of different people across the IT department to make really good inroads really quickly. And I have not only the ability to talk to them about their subject, which buys you an unbelievable amount of respect. Even if I knew nothing about security and nothing about DevOps, just the fact that I could talk to them about software development and network operations, they respect you just for that. So that just gives you that massive authority to talk to them about their field, really. If you go to talk to them and you know nothing about it, you've got to keep asking questions about things that they consider basic, then your authority diminishes quite quickly. And I have seen security analysts struggle with this exact problem. And it's not because the security analyst was doing anything wrong, it's just because they had no authority with the team they were talking to. And that caused problems because they just didn't want to listen to the advice being given, if I'm honest. So that's what I have to say on that.
According to me, I believe even if we are starting with we should have a clear path, what are we aiming to, what I actually want to be. So if I have a clear route in my mind, I believe that even if I'm starting with a very small organization with a very a minute sometimes the role may not be very big position, sometimes it will be a service desk role, or if I'm offered with a role with just handling the phone calls of about the cybersecurity incidents, so that it's itself an education. I'm getting a idea of what are the incidents happening in this field, or I'll be getting an idea of which section I should redirect the calls to. So from the basic, I'll be getting the knowledge of or I'll be getting an idea about what is happening in that field. So I believe even if we are starting with a very small or a very small, or maybe if it's a volunteer or a voluntary or a unpaid internship or something like that, I'll be getting if I'm getting a learning experience, that will definitely contribute to my career. As we are told, if we are having that willingness, or if we are having that strong passion to learn more, and even if we are doing very minute things or small things, we will get valued or we will get recognized in an organization. The thing is, there are so many people, there will be so many people working with us without whole heart. Like if you are ready to work with whole heart, and if you're ready to work hard with interest, so showing so much of interest to learn more, then definitely you will be getting valued and you will be getting support from the co-workers. I believe like that.
I just want to make sure that we actually answer the question regarding the training path. You need to decide if you just want to learn as much as you can about everything, because you haven't just really decided where you want to specialize yet, or if you want to remain a generalist. So that's something you need to decide on. Myself, I know where I'll end up. I'm going specifically into cryptography and specifically around live streams. So my path will be different from most people's. Most people just aren't interested in what I'm doing, but I understand that. But that's where I want to end up.
Chris?
Okay. It's funny, we talk about information security. Having done a course on information security in about 93, when we still had dial-up modems, and this is for the military. But there we were looking, even then, we had a lot of documents that are secret and they've got to be recorded in a particular way and so on and so forth. So it's understanding, shall we say, all the building blocks and where documents can go astray, even when they're hard copy and not necessarily, even now it's, everybody's, I'll send you a PDF of this, and we email or we transfer documents all over the place, press of a button. But it's then saying, okay, well, what's the process to audit all that and follow it all? So like with all training, it gives you the building blocks, and then it's up to the individual in some respects. And hopefully there's managers above them that will guide them on what to look at to inform their thinking. Because, like I say, I'm well over 50 now, and I've not stopped learning. That said, I've got 2 children that are absolutely hopeless at IT. So like with this lockdown at 4:30 in the afternoon, I become the IT help desk for them. But I've never stopped learning. There's always some piece of information out there that will help me understand more how to do my job better. So even in the, let's say I predominantly work within the physical side. I will make a habit of going around visiting as many parts of that design team as I can to understand what it is that they're putting in and how does that affect me and what I'm trying to protect.
Yeah.
Okay, and also on vendor certs and specific certs and measurable knowledge, we have had a comment from Eliza, which is around vendor training being needed. It's a useful thing, but it shouldn't be held up against understanding actual concepts in a more agnostic way, a broader way. And then the additional comment that we're cert obsessed in InfoSec. And I think if you just look at the certs available for information cybersecurity, that's not an unbased comment. That definitely has some evidence. She's then gone on to say, and I think this is an important bit, there isn't a certificate that says qualified outside of vendor certs. Now, I'd slightly disagree with this, but it's a way for big corporates to monetize people's career progression, and we hold that too high. If you study on YouTube, if you study by reading books, if you look around and do research, you've still got the knowledge and the understanding. The problem is that certs are and now I'm interpreting her words, the problem is that certs are a very easy, measurable way to say, I've learned this, and saying, well, actually, I just spent the last 5 weeks looking around on YouTube, reading a couple of articles, looking up the white papers, and built a wireless security lab at home. It doesn't really have the same, oh yes, I got the wireless security certificate impact. It's a lot harder to assess.
I would have to agree. Sorry.
Go on.
So I have to agree with the whole IT as a whole is certification bonkers. I will not deny that. IT as a whole is certification bonkers. We have a cert for almost everything. But in saying that, those certs with a hiring manager, and I'm speaking as a hiring manager, do not necessarily carry the weight people think they do. I've seen guys with every single AWS certification there is. I've not hired them, and they said, and I looked through the CV, and the guy had 2 years of AWS experience. Now, AWS is just a cloud platform. And I said, well, I don't really care if he's got every cert under the sun. He's got 2 years of experience. And I've got other guys here who have got 1 or 2 certs, but I know they're good at that specific thing. When I look at the experience, they say, I've built this, I've done this, and that's what I'm after. I want to know that you can do the job that I'm hiring you to do effectively. And so, yes, certification is great and it's easy to measure what people know and so on. But at the flip side of that is, once you get too many certs, at what point does a hiring manager look at it and say, has this guy just learned everything for a week and immediately forgot it to do the next one? Because if you've got 50 certifications, I'm fairly sure you're only remembering maybe 6 or 7 of them. That's the bottom line. So that's my take on that.
I just jump in on there. Is working in the field that I do, we have to deal with companies that are National Security Inspectorate accredited, and they do a bronze, silver, and gold. And these guys are normally the installation teams that put in your CCTV, your access control, intruder detection, and that. In all the projects I've done, I've never seen. So all these companies are that not only they hold this accreditation, this NSI accreditation, but they also hold vendor-specific accreditations for understanding how all the kit that they're installing, whether it's a Vigilon, Hikvision, Axis, clips together. I've never seen a good installation yet that fills me with confidence. Bar one, I would say, bar one, and the bar one is because we were there day in, day out on their backs going, what about that? What about this? What about that? So as we said earlier, certification shows me that somebody's bothered their backside to go and learn. Obviously, in a business sense, some people get the certifications purely to align themselves with a particular vendor. But the actual show me a physical installation that you've done, I want to come and see it. For me, is where people need to be. They need to be able to show a portfolio of work completed to actually prove that they have not only the technical knowledge, but the physical knowledge on how to actually install the equipment. I don't know, helps the discussion, but you know, like I say, it's a benchmark. A certification system is a benchmark, but the actual proof in the pudding is show me an installation you've done recently. Show me the build that you've done recently. You know? I
think it does help the discussion. And TR, I know that your course does this. Angel, I don't know if yours does, but a lot of university courses, while at the end you come out with, I've done a degree, one of the things that gets missed, that's really a value in those courses, is you are building, for example, a wireless security lab. You are building a particular thing and you are doing a proper assessment of it, if you're doing, say, a security course. So you are building that portfolio. Where it falls down is that the importance of that is massively understated as part of the course. Because if you go into an interview and say, I did this, I built this thing, I have experience, I have constructed it, I can walk you through every step because that was an assignment, that is massively more valuable than going into an interview and saying, yeah, I've got this nice certificate. So I think that is one area where universities fall down, because they do it on the course, but they don't tell you how important of a thing it is. So Angel, just for you, have you had that sort of lab experience or any sort of practical hands-on assessment as part of the course that you could turn into, I've done this?
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, while I am searching for jobs or I'm requesting for some job roles, I'm not highlighting the things that, like, the activities or assignments or projects I have done in my university. Rather, like, I'll always focus that I'm doing my master's in network and information security in Kingston University, London. So as you mentioned, like, I have experience in like vulnerability assessment, mobile security. We have done like real time, like we have taken one mobile application, we have analyzed all the security flows in that application, we have found the mitigation solutions for that. So we have experience like that, but while I am requesting for some job roles, I'm not highlighting that. Rather than like I am always showing up my degree, or like I had a misconception like it's important to show my degree, and it's important to show my certifications in front of the recruiters. I never knew that like these things are also equally important, because I'm currently working on my master's project. It is like securing an augmented reality based e-commerce application. So I'm working it all alone. So I am now learning on how to secure an augmented reality based e-commerce application that is made in Unity. So I'm actually not having much knowledge about, but I'm learning. I'm getting so much exposure. So that like I'm so happy in whatever I'm doing, but I have never highlighted all these things to any of the recruiters. I'll always highlight what my degree is providing me, what are the topics coming under my syllabus. These topics I have learned in my university, or like I have what all things I can highlight as a part of my like the titles. I'm always giving importance to the titles, like masters in network and information security, and now I am learning the like I'm going through some courses in LinkedIn, like vulnerability management, all those like titles I'm just highlighting. I have never expressed anything about my assignments or the group activities or that practical learnings or lab sessions I had in my university. So I definitely believe that I have some experience in the from the university that may definitely help me when I'm working with an organization. Yeah, it will.
Okay, just something I want to bring in from the chat here. So we've had something from Chris in the chat, a different Chris, saying that he went to an interview once where the interviewer said he gets 20 CVs across his desk with an MSc in security, but he really valued, I won't say the organization name, but he really valued a particular certificate he had at the time, as it's more vocational. The only reason I'm not saying the organization name is because it would suggest theirs are more valuable. Actually, it's more vocational ones have a certain value depending on your interviewer. So is it another aspect to look at, vocational qualifications versus academic qualifications? Chris, if we start with you on this one, because I know you've got a lot of experience on the vocational side as well.
Yeah, for me, you know, having left school at 15 all those years ago, and at a time when the United Kingdom was in a massive unemployment thing, but I've never been out of work. I've always found something, because you know it's all about building experience of life. So you know that vocational training comes in. I haven't always hot-wired cars, but you know, for me, it was in 2004 when I thought, you know what, I wonder if I could put myself through a degree. So I that's when I embarked on the Open University progress, because there's no way I was going to go back to becoming a full-time student, because I just wanted to, I couldn't afford to do it. I didn't have anybody to pay for me. So you look at it and you say, okay, all this knowledge, I've got to be able to be able to show how this has informed my life choices, and I must be able to find something educationally that gives me the route to do that. And that's what I did. and then, like I say, because I was doing the degree, and then I went and did 2 security courses to help validate my experience. So yeah, having a route to show your life experiences, vocational training, I think they call it now, but life experiences that inform your decision making. I think there needs to be a route, and that needs to be shown. But again, you've still got to look at, okay, this is where that person is now. Where, if I'm a manager, where do I want that person, if I'm recruiting them into my business, where do I want that person to be in 5 to 10 years' time? Because part of my role is to look at their development so that they can do what I do now, but do it better.
So just on that, can I ask, did you do your vocational certification before or after your master's?
I did it in between. I was working through my Open University stuff, and I thought, well, that certification looks useful for where I want to go, so I'll do that at the same time. I don't know why, because I had a 4-month-old child. Well, he's 1 year old by then. So I was doing that, childcare, courses. Yeah, talk about burn the midnight oil. This is why I've got such a...
4-month-old child, you weren't sleeping anyway, so you may as well learn.
I'd say I'm only 21, but, it was an uphill paper round.
So my next question really on that one was, do you feel that when you exited Open University, that having those certifications with the degree really was sort of put you ahead, because you could say, I've got the vocational certifications, plus I've got the masters as well. So, and without taking into account that you already had years of professional development, would you say that put you in a better place?
Yeah, most definitely, because now I'm now on the register of chartered security professionals. I mean, I'm the only person in our family that is a chartered professional, and I often wonder how did I get there. But it's just, I found a pleasure in the subject that I followed. Security, it's such a broad subject. There's so many different facets of it, and I know, I like I say, my main thrust these days is that physical security. But years ago, that I used to do that protective security around individuals and the like. And I've also done information security, because I've had to run organizations where we've got to control the documentation and so on and so forth. So I've got all those assets that I'm aware of, and knowledge that I'm aware of. And it was great to be able to then pursue that, because they always say you never really work if you pursue what you like doing. And it makes a living for me,
I'm just going to explain on chartered professionals, because I know that some of the people watching won't necessarily have come across the term. Chartered designations, they're largely a UK thing, because you get a Royal Charter. It's an accreditation to being at a certain level in your profession. And to be honest, if you are chartered, you have reached the highest qualification level possible in your profession. That's not to say you can't get any better. It's saying that there isn't actually a qualification you can get that professionally improves on it. There's a certain level required to get there. So chartered is similar to, I'm finding it really difficult to phrase it without saying it's equivalent to a PhD, because it's very much not. But in terms of professional qualification, it is the terminal final accreditation of this person is at the top of their game in the field that they're working in. I think, have I got close enough there, Chris?
It sounds, yeah, that sounds good to me. Although, I've never ever thought I'm at the top of my game, because I always think there's another game to be played. You're only as good as the game you're playing at that moment in time.
I think
that's what people benchmark you with.
Anyone who thinks they are at the top of the game and don't need to learn anything more will probably not be getting a chartered qualification. Let's put it that way. Right. So there's another one, and I'm sorry to swerve the topic here, but there's a question here from Sol, which is saying if you started as a security analyst, so you started off in security, but want to work your way backwards. So you want to understand those more foundational areas, the areas you interact with. For example, he's doing an MSc working full time. So similar to yourself, TR, and the one I went through and the one you went through, Chris. But he doesn't see where he can find the time to learn the practical side of the security field. And that could be the physical side, it could be the non-physical side, but the actual experience of how security happens. So from any of you, because I think you've all probably got ideas on this, if we start with you, Angel, because I think yours will be most useful. You're doing a full-time course. Yeah. How do you learn that sort of foundational, I want to be able to talk to other areas as a security person? How do you get that experience of their areas?
Like, I have no much experience in speaking about the security like matters. I have been working as an assistant systems engineer. So if I'm asked more about that field, I'll be able to speak about the work experience that I had. But and like when I'm speaking about the information security field, I just have the concepts in my mind. So based on the question from Solantra, I believe that if we are starting from, like, there are some opportunities. I have come across so many people. Like, I will always try to grab up all the opportunities to meet more people from the security field so that I can get advice and suggestion from that. That's the reason I'm here now. So once I have met a lady from Deloitte, I guess, and she is working as a cybersecurity analyst, but she's not having any base from cybersecurity. She is from BSc mathematics, and she have no work experience in the field of cybersecurity. She just worked as a bar staff, and now she's working as a cybersecurity analyst. So she was so much inspiring for me. So I believe that when we are directly starting in as a cybersecurity analyst or an information security analyst, if we feel like we need to know more about the foundation, like the base of the, like, there are so many basics that we haven't yet known. So if we feel like we need to know more about that, one thing is, like, the university degree or the university education can provide you basics of the foundation of almost all the topics. Like, yeah, since I am doing my full-time master's course, like, first and most important decision I have taken is travel abroad. I am coming from India. I have traveled abroad to UK to get the best education, because in my country I was not finding any quality education, especially in the field of security, because yeah, I'm from a very small town there. So there we don't have much masters that are giving very good specialization in security field. When I decided the university and the course to be chosen, I have gone through the syllabus, the topics covered, because I was sure, like, I had a strong determination to at least cover the basics necessary to start a career in this field, because I have shortlisted 3 to 4 universities and gone through their syllabus. So if I haven't found the satisfying topics there, I just uh, avoided that university. So I believe that if we are getting a university education, most of the things necessary for kickstarting a career is covered there. The basic foundation is laid there, I believe. So I don't know, just my concept or opinion, I don't know.
I just, one thing that jumps out to me is volunteer. If you want to get hands-on experience on somebody else's kit, there's charitable organizations out there that are strapped for cash and that need expert help. So find them, volunteer. You suddenly become their IT expert or their security expert, and you get hands-on, and you also help a charity get better from where they are. I used to volunteer my local charity here, which is it went from an old dilapidated school building now to a building that before the pandemic you were struggling for space. There were that many different user groups wanting to book the space there. So look at what volunteering options you've got, because information technology is with us, whether you like it or loathe it. And there are lots of small organizations that don't have a big budget, they don't have any budget, and would fall over backwards for a little bit of help. So maybe that's one route to look at pursuing it.
Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely like because I have been receiving some offers for unpaid internships. So I'm not keeping them aside. Like, I'm happy to work with them if they are like ensuring me to get maximum hands-on experience, as well as like they have if they are ensuring me how the exact client interactions are going on, like how they are giving me the exposure to the exact real-time risks and analysis, or the vulnerability assessment, everything. If they are ensuring me, I'll definitely go for an unpaid or internship as well, because uh, this is my first job after completing my master's. So that would be my first platform to learn maximum things. So I don't want to take any chances. I want to get the maximum experience out of that.
Okay.
So the way I would approach it, if you wanted to remain part of your existing company, obviously depends on what side you're sitting on. If you're sitting in the security team and now, and you want to get more exposure, would be to try to get yourself assigned to maybe a network security project or a software development project or whatever type of project, maybe it's physical security project, and to work with the specialists, A, in the security team that's working with that, but B, with the people that actually do an implementation, because they're going to show you different things. And if you're genuine interest in what they're doing, most people are actually really happy to teach and show you stuff. And the flip side of that, if you're not in the security team and you're in either software team, dev team, physical security, obviously physical space, such maybe you're racking or something like that, and you say, actually, I want to move into security, start taking on that role, start doing research and start doing those bits of work. So if I want to just go from my experience. So if I was doing network implementation, I would start configuring ACLs and then moving up to be looking at the firewalls and then so on, the PICs, sorry, the IDS and so on, and moving up that way, and then using that knowledge to work more with the security, closer to the security team, to get that information from them and to work with them. Because one of the things that is often missing is someone that bridges teams. And if you can work as that bridge for teams between security and any other team, so much things will then happen through you that you will just learn at an accelerated pace, because everyone will just go to you from both teams to get that thing done. So you have no choice but to learn at an accelerated pace, which puts you in a really great position, because you can say, actually, this is what I've done. This is where I started a year ago, and this is where I am now. All right, you're not going to be an expert in a year, but having that knowledge just means that you're all in demand from those teams, and people say, actually, you've done really well on that project. Let me move you into another project that needs similar requirements, and you can carry on building A, those relationships, and B, your knowledge on either side. So that's the way I would do it if I wanted to remain in the commercial realm, essentially.
I completely agree with that, because I have a previous experience in this similar way. Like, while I was working with one team in my previous company, I had opportunity to work with another team, so that I was acting like a bridge there. So I completely believe that that will contribute so much to learning.
Okay, we're getting to a point where it is starting to get late and some of us haven't eaten and are meant to be cooking dinner. So I'm going to finish off with first one question and then a point for you all to feed back on. So one nice simple question for everyone. If there was one qualification, certification, tick box, certificate, whatever it is, that you could have, and all of the experience to get there, but that you could have and hold up, what would it be and why?
Without flinching, I'll say the master's degree, without even blinking. And the simple reason is it's transferable. Once you have your degree, even if in 10 years' time you decided, actually, I don't want to be in security, that's a transferable. People often won't ask if you want to go to business next. They're not going to say, oh, you don't have a business degree or you don't have a history degree. How many people in banking have history degrees? Tons. I can tell you that for a fact.
Given the number of people I've come across in security with MBAs, I'd say you're probably right that people don't ask about the subject. Angel,
Yeah.
if you could have one qualification just given to you along with all of the knowledge to get it, so we're not just saying you get the certificate, you get everything that you should have learned on it, what would it be?
I definitely value my degree, I guess, because if we are not having a valid degree, we will not be even matching the basic criteria or eligibility criteria for even applying for jobs. Like when I am applying for the jobs, I can see that like for some jobs they are telling like NCSC certified courses required, or like a master's degree in related fields like cybersecurity, information security, network security is required. So I also believe like we require a degree, and if I'm asked about a certification, I really wish to have a security plus CompTIA security plus certification. I think it can help you a lot.
I'm just going to say I've got a CompTIA Security Plus, and I think it was probably the most foundational qualification I did at the beginning.
Yeah.
It covers enough of everything that it gives you an idea. So that is me actually endorsing a particular certification, which you won't hear often. But no, that is one that is broad enough and good enough to be useful. Chris.
Well, that's it's an interesting. My initial thought is life, because it's been all the people I've met on my journey that have informed me and made me who I am, given me some of the thoughts and enabled me to enact those thoughts and do what I do. And this is where we go back to, is it a vocational element? And getting the masters, etc., is the icing on the cake to show that you've got all the right bits of life skill and you can process it and enact it. So yeah, for me, it's I'm only here because of a circle of people that I've worked with and known over my journey of life.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to now make a point to try and sum up the discussion, which may be entirely wrong. So I'll give you all a chance to disagree with me. But from what I think has come out of the discussion, certifications are not useless. They definitely have a place. There should be more focus on vocational, in terms of vocational being a way to demonstrate what you can do as opposed to what you can tick on a tick box. And the biggest challenge with it is that demonstrating what you can do is not a tick box exercise. It's something where all of your experience, everything you've learned, everything you've done has led up to it. And that's a very hard thing to turn into a certificate. So there is a fundamental flaw with certificates in that they cannot compress all of that down into one thing. There are attempts at it, some are better than others, and the sign is probably if it takes 5-6 years to get, it's better than something that you can do in a week in a boot camp. My personal opinion, and this is where I think some might argue, and I really want to hear arguments, is that if you could pass the exam in the same amount of time with access to Google, or without it, but with a 1-week boot camp, it is probably not a certificate worth putting too much weight in.
So that's qualifying. That's going to be really difficult. And I'm going to say this because I've done Microsoft exams, and we all know where I stand on Microsoft exams because I used to knock them out one a week at one point. But that's completely irrelevant when you look at my background. I was already a Microsoft engineer for 10 years when I started knocking them out one a week. So the fact I was knocking out one a week was irrelevant. Yes, I felt at the time, and I probably was the worst person to talk about Microsoft exams because of this. I was saying they were so easy or pointless, nobody should bother getting them. But I didn't think about the fact I was an engineer for 10 years already. So I honestly, if I was to then look at it and go, actually, how much was I already taking to the exam and how much was I learning? I'd have to then say, actually, it's probably not much I was learning in those weeks when I was just knocking them out. I was probably taking that 10 years experience to the exam. So if you're tackling an exam like that, then maybe they're worthwhile as validation.
So I'm just going to say, in response to that, before we move on to other people, if you were going in with 10 years of Microsoft experience that you could demonstrate, what value did the certificate add?
In that particular case, it was validating to myself. I was still quite young at the time, and I wanted to validate to myself that I was as good as I thought I was, and that I was, when I was applying for jobs, I had something to show and say, this is what I can do, not just a case of this is what I've done as a few lines on a CV.
You know what? Me and my MCSE Sec Plus aren't going to argue with that at all because I did a boot camp for that one, but only after 5 years. So I'm not going to disagree with the validating to yourself. That is important, and that is a value I hadn't actually considered at all when formulating that statement. Angel, if you can do it with a boot camp or Google point.
Actually, I haven't done any certifications, so I don't know how a boot camp is contributing to the certifications, and I don't know how much Google education can help. I have no experience on certifications actually.
Okay. I will recommend that you try and do the Sec Plus exam, the Security Plus exam, because you've done the work to get there on your MSc.
Yeah.
The boot camp at that point is just going to be consolidating what you know and teaching the terminology. So a short course will be teaching you how to express what you know in the way that the examiners are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris.
Okay. I've delivered boot camps for people to get through certifications. Admittedly, they've got to have read all the material before they get there. All I'm trying to do is emphasize those key points. I don't think I could sit down and use Google and learn that way myself. I need that interaction with other people. So that sitting in a room with other people.
Sorry, I just want to clarify what I mean by using Google. I don't mean spending a week at a boot camp or spending a week with Google. I mean spending a week at a boot camp or doing the 2-hour multiple choice exam with access to Google.
Right. No, I would, like I say, I'd go for the boot camp element, that intensive validation. I've read all the books, make sure that my learning is correct, and then crack on with the exam.
So more of a capstone qualification on experience and prior learning
Yeah.
than just filling in an exam.
Because I can actually say I've been to boot camps for those management certificates that I spoke about earlier. And yes, they're good introductions, and they validate that you know enough to have a conversation. Not that, and that's all they're validating. You know enough to have a conversation, not to do the job.
Okay. And so to sum up, then, I was oversimplifying, and we've got Chris in the audience as well commenting on that a bit, which is that if you're doing bootcamp versus Google sort of arguments of the certificate doesn't necessarily have value, it comes down to the prerequisites. It comes down to, do you have to go into the bootcamp? Do you have to go into the exam? Do you have to go into the open book exam with enough experience to make it valuable? So is it the certification on its own, or is it that it's proving a capstone on top of what you've already got? Which, funnily enough, is exactly what the charter is meant to be. It's meant to be validating your experience. It's not meant to be validating a course you've taken. And there's a few others out there like that. On that, I'm going to say we'll go offline from the people we're broadcasting to in just a second, but thank you all for coming on and taking part in this third Security Coffee House experimental thing. It will turn into a dinner party at some point, and then I'll feed people as well as asking for your opinions. I'm going to take it off the live streaming, so goodbye to everyone.